Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending where you are. This is Adrienne Montgomery. I'm with ERP VAR, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about Sage 100 ERP, formerly Mass 90, and we're going to be talking about 16 ways to manufacture and ship more product better, cheaper, faster. And I'm very excited today to have Alex Bagdasarian with us at IIG. He's the founding principal owner of IIG, and has a lot of great enhancements that they offer, and been doing this since 1991. We have Bob Sosby with IIG as well, and Caroline Walsh, the VP of Sales and Marketing over at V Technologies. So, long time experts for Sage 100 ERP on the line with us today. So I'm very excited to bring you this presentation. There's a couple housekeeping notes I'd like to make prior to starting here. There is a question mark button next to your name on the webinar pane, and there's a hand. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, I just encourage you to go ahead and click on that question mark button and key in your question in the text dialog box that comes up, and we will reserve announcing those questions until the end of the presentation. If you do feel so inclined at the end to speak live, go ahead and use that hand button. That will tell me that you'd like to speak live at the end of the presentation, just to collaborate with your questions and make sure that we answer them clearly. And so you're always welcome to do that, but we're going to reserve that until the end of the presentation, the question and answer session. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Just to give you a little bit of background about V Technologies, they've been specializing in shipping solutions since 1989. They are arguably the market share leader for shipping software for Sage software, Sage 100 ERP, Sage 500 ERP, and X3. They have a shipping integration with Sage ERP X3. And they also have very strong, long-standing relationships with all the major carriers and warehouse management applications like ScanCo, ScanForce, market-leading EDI applications for Sage 100 ERP like Mapadoc, SPS Commerce, TrueCommerce. So many integrations and many relationships to help you develop a solution that fits your needs. So thousands of customers are on Starship, and the product is constantly evolving to answer the growing demands of the marketplace. So Starship in the warehouse, I just want to go through a couple points about Starship. There's some new functionality available for Sage 100 ERP for batch functionality. You can use Rate Shop from the sales order, so you can find the best price for shipments right from your sales order module in Sage 100 ERP. Line item detail for international and LTL shipments. As I said, they have many different integrations with warehouse management systems. All the warehouse management systems available for Sage 100 ERP. Starship has relationships with all the established third parties for manufacturing and warehouse management. They have combined packing lists and shipping labels. Customizable shipment email notifications, so you can send those notifications over to your customers once shipments have been completed, and a great dashboard that enables your whole office to access shipment history, reports, and metrics that really assist for customer service and follow-up. So IIG, longtime Sage software master developer. Many awards have been given to IIG by Sage Software. They have so much experience in the Sage community. They're a leading Sage 100 VAR implementer. They're located in Southern California. They have 40 plus employees, and they just love software. When you work with IIG, you just know that they love making fully integrated solutions that will fit their customers' needs. They have several different add-ons. Today we're going to be talking about the material and planning and production add-on, work order and MRP modules for Sage 100 and SQL. They also have warehouse automation enhancements as well. They also have a field service application, equipment rental and inventory management. They also have an apparel module. So any of you out there that have any of those vertical needs, I would recommend giving IIG a call. And they have thousands of customers across North America. And as I said, they're a longtime Sage software development partner. So today we're going to be talking about material planning and production. So Alec is going to run down how you can see your material requirements by item and ship date, quantity to produce. You can view your min-max entries and just auto-generate purchase orders, so you're always up to date with your material that goes into the manufacturing process. So we have lots of exciting stuff to share with you today. You can create work orders from your sales orders. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Bob. And Bob, I'm going to go ahead and make you presenter so you can show the demo. Thank you so much.
We've been working with our shipping automation system for quite some time. We have worked in the past with Starship, and we have a number of capabilities that we have built into our package. From the fact that we're able to set stuff up on the customer level and preset up a lot of the functionality so that you're able to see the shipping options, whether or not a customer is prepaid freight or prepaid freight at level, similar to the freight rules in Starship, which, by the way, you can use either Starship's freight rules or our freight rules, either one. Typically, you would use one or the other. So you can set this up to, like, for a particular customer, they can go prepaid freight. Prepaid freight to us means that you pay the freight and then you choose whether or not to apply the freight to the customer's invoice. You can do a prepaid freight at level, which means that, say, like $800, they would get prepaid freight for any shipments. Usually, though, it's for specific ship vias, like ground service or something like that. Okay. We also have the capability to do what's called a blind ship. Blind ship is that you can, it will use this address, the customer's address, as the return address on the label. You also have a blind ship code where you can select a ship to code to be used instead. So, like, if this is their accounting department, but you want it to show their address as the return. And we have various packing slip sheet options. Bear in mind, you can use the mass packing slip or you can use the Starship packing slip. If you use the mass packing slip, we can choose to suppress the packing slip, print it, or we can come up with a specific one. This is specifically was designed for, like, Amazon and Walmart.com and things like that, so it appears to print their particular packing list if you're doing fulfillment. Okay. We also have the ability to select specific ship vias. Okay, this is the default ship via, but you can also have others. Okay, and set these. So we'll say, like, FedEx Ground, so that this might be the method that they do in prepaid freight at $800, and not $8,000. Okay, you can also set these things up also for EDI purposes, where you can do third party, etc., and that would be passed over. So we do shipper, recipient, third party. All of these map over. Okay, it's a third party payer. There's two, it's an easy way to do it, recipient and then third party, and you can put in X, Y, Z. Okay, and this will be passed over as the third party. Okay, and then, as you can see, you have pre-set up what has been pre-arranged with this customer. Okay, so this flows down to be able to set and forget the rules for this customer, for each unique customer. You also have the capability of setting various global things. So these become the rules that it works under. Okay. All right. So you can set a lot of the things, whether or not to check for duplicate tracking numbers, do LTL processing, require box distribution, which validates what's in the box and verifies it. As you see, we have a Starship link here. The billing options can be whether it's charge actual freight, zero invoice and no charge, whether or not to charge COD extra if you don't do like that. And some address verification functions, automatic selection of if it's a COD based on the terms code, our rate shopping, what default warehouse to use, our bill of lading setup so that these can be passed over or generated. Okay, and our manual, of course, which is available by just simply clicking on it. You can also control things by carrier. Okay, so for instance, like we have UPS Ground. Okay, the interface with Starship. Okay, which can be none, manual, any one of a number of things. Starship, whether it's a small parcel or an LTL carrier. So this controls what data we send over to Starship. Okay, and again, you can also have auto-calculate prepaid freight. Our system is smart. If this is lower than the customer's one, it will use this level. We have different ship vias or shipping codes because international has to be treated a little bit different than domestic. Okay, although Starship handles a lot of that for us. Okay, so in sales order, okay. Oh, and also too, one quick thing, on the inventory level, you're able to set up a lot of the things that, and we send it over to Starship automatically in terms of freight. So you can set up national freight codes, the class, the bill of lading description, the export data, whether or not it's hazmat, this all will flow over to Starship. Okay. For rate shopping, we can actually set up what the various cases and whatnot are, so that when we do rating, we can send it over on how we think it will be packaged, so that Starship can give you a much clearer rating. Okay. Currently, I don't have that active, but it is there. Okay, sales order. So you create an order for the customer, okay, and you can select on the ship vias. So we'll say FedEx Ground. It will automatically load the options for FedEx Ground, and if you're not sure, you can always look up their specific ones. Okay, so whether or not a signature is required, whether it's going to be prepaid or anything like that, if you select, like I think it was UPS Blue, no, UPS Ground, as you can see, it automatically loads all this information over, and this will flow to Starship. Okay, so in this particular case, I'm going to go back to the FedEx Ground. Okay, and destination country. Some of this apply like this is specific. How we print on here, the bill of lading only appears if it is an LTL shipper, such as Roadway. All of these things can then be overridden or controlled at this level. Should you also be bringing orders in from, say, like a website that pre-calculates freight, you can use this function, which use entered freight amount, which basically locks in the freight. We normally would process in based on the shipping rules or what we've already set up. But if this is set, then from the website, that freight amount won't change. So you can ship and not worry about it. These are some of the features that are built into our system. So, you know, desk file, say 10 of these. Okay. All right. And go from there. We have the rate shopping will be linked in. Currently, it's not fully functional. You'll have to do your rate shopping in Starship, but we're working with Starship to finish linking that in. Okay. And then you would go into shipping. Okay. And you would process it as you normally would, whether you're scanning it. Okay. Select your lots. Okay. And next package, same as you always would. 10. Select the lot. There you go. Okay. We have a feature here called Verify Backorder. Okay. It would go through and tell you which line isn't fully shipped if there was a back order for it. Okay. And why is this not showing? Distribute. Okay. All right. And then you're able to go through and do shipping. Okay. Calculate the weight, or you can read the scale, or you can have Starship do that. Okay. In this particular case, we enter 10 pounds, give it a box code which passes dimensions. These will be passed over, and it keeps track of the number of boxes that you did. Okay. So we said it was 2 boxes. All right. 11 pounds. And in this particular case, because of the items in it, it didn't accept the weight. All right. So FedEx ground. And 11 pounds. Okay. All right. And you should be able to ship. As you can see, we generate a Starship packing slip here, and then it would flow back into IIG. So at this particular point, all right, and as you can see, you have the information here. So it's working with it to bring it back in, and there's the tracking IDs, so that you're able to then process through. Okay, and you're able to then go through and see the tracking numbers and everything like that flow through. So that's and then at the end of the day, here we would run our shipping, and we would close our manifest, which will show you that you would go through and you would do your close. Now you will need to do the close in Starship because that's a function of Starship, but we'll be able to go through and do that. Then it will show you what has been shipped, the tracking numbers thereof, and the freights, the weights and freights, and we'll go from there. So, and then you're able to close the manifest. So at this point, you're ready for the next day. The idea here is that we make it very simple. In the case of bill of lading and stuff like that, we have an additional step that we do that will be that there will be a pickup entry that we record in IIG when the driver actually picks it up. It will, in many cases, you can do a manual shipment in here on freight, and it will go through and collect that information, but a lot of times you won't have some information until the driver picks up. So when that's picked up, we'll record it here, and we'll also record it in Sage so that the accounting department will be able to see the LTL information and all of that information. Okay, and it's really my, this part of it from here. Any questions at this point?
Bob, there's several questions, but we're going to go ahead and reserve the questions until the end of the presentation.
Okie doke. So at this particular point, I think it should go over to Alec.
Okay.
I believe Caroline was going to go over some of the
I'm sorry.
V-Technologies features.
Caroline, you're on.
Cool. Hey, guys. This is Caroline Walsh from V-Technologies. Thanks, Bob. That was a good presentation. It's nice to see that IIG is developing the integration to Starship. So what I wanted to show today is just a little bit of the couple new features that we have in Starship. What Bob just showed you was kind of the original integration where you can access Starship from within the Sage 100 fields. But one of the things that we've done with what we call our BOI interface, where we're accessing the data direct, is giving you guys the ability to do batch shipping. So in the past, when you click on this magnifying glass, you probably saw something that looks slightly different than this. But what we've done with the search now is giving you the ability to search either your invoices or your orders, do a multi-select, and then process all of those orders or invoices in one click. Typically used in cases where customers are doing things like putting items on flash sale sites, getting thousands of shipments that way, bringing those into Sage and then wanting to ship them out all in one batch. So instead of using the import-export functionality in Starship, we can access the Sage 100 orders directly from here, process a batch of them, and then also update the order or the invoice in real time so that you can minimize your amount of steps needed to get some of those larger shipments out. But in this case, I'm just going to load this one particular invoice here and just walk through some of the standard functionality in Starship. So once I bring the order in, you'll see I have all the header level information as a preview in the upper left-hand pane here. And I'm bringing over all the information from the package data. So when Bob showed you that IIG has the ability to define item and box level detail, if you push on that Starship button from within their solution, you would then be able to see the item and box level information that they're sending over to us. So you can have a visual down at the bottom here where you can see item to box level information. If you drill into any of these items, you'll see the line item detail that's coming over into Starship from this particular invoice. And this is where if you're defining things like the SCAC code, NMFC code, subcode class, all of that information can flow from the IIG system over to Starship so that we can have that information and use it in order to do things like rate shopping or printing of the BOL, that type of stuff. For international shipments, we use the information to help you generate commercial invoices, shipper's letter of instruction, all those international docs that have the commodity level information on them. We can utilize that information so that you don't have to have some double entry there. I just ran the rate shop in Starship, so it took the two boxes that were defined inside of my invoice and brought those in. And I'm just showing all the carrier and services here. So Starship supports both Parcel and Freight. We have over a dozen direct integrations to freight carriers such as UPS Freight, FedEx Freight, Saia, Old Dominion, pretty much the top 10 national carriers. And if you look here, you can see that I do have a combination of both Parcel and Freight showing up in my list here. And so you'll be able to drill into any of these and see what makes up that particular freight charge. So you'll see I have a freight charge, I'm getting a 76% discount, and I see some fuel surcharges and residential delivery surcharges here. All of that really gets combined into one freight charge, which you can then use to update your invoice, As Bob mentioned, Starship does have freight rules, so if you wanted to define your rules in Starship, you could, or you could use the IIG solution to define your freight rules there. Either way, you can. The idea here is that you can define, how the freight is calculated, and the definition can, include freight rules such as order total, customer type, anything really. Have tons of customers doing different things with that. The other thing with the rate shopping is Starship also has something where it can automatically select the carrier and service based on your conditions. So if you have a best way ship via, you can use that and define the parameters in Starship to look at maybe the required delivery time and pick the least expensive way to get it there. So if you do just a ship and process here, you can also hit F5. Starship's going to process this particular shipment. It's going to generate the barcoded shipping labels, and it's also going to update the source. So this happens to be an example of what we call our smart label. It's the packing list plus the shipping label. This gets printed on 8.5 by 11 that has a little die cut area for the shipping label itself. Starship also supports printing the thermal label directly to a thermal label printer. And if you wanted to use Starship to print the pack list, you could have Starship print the pack list to the thermal printer, and then you would get 2 labels for every package. The first one would be the shipping label, and then the second one would be the packing list that you'd put inside the box. So these are the 2 labels for the 2 boxes that we processed. And then basically you're ready to process your next shipment. One of the things I wanted to show you before I send it back to Alec is the email notifications. So Starship does support email notifications through the carriers, but we also have our own email server, which can allow you to define what the email looks like. The nice thing with this is you can include your Sage fields in here. So the PO number, which would be your customer's reference, might be nice to send back to your customer. And then you can also include things like the item level information. So in this case, you'll see package 1 with the tracking information associated to it, the item that was shipped in that package, and the quantities. So I shipped 5 of this item in this box and the other 5 in the other box. And then you can do things like send them, your customers, back to your website, include custom offers. You have an unlimited number of templates that you can create through the email notification solution in Starship, and then you can create conditions on when those templates are used. So if you wanted to have a different look and feel for one of your drop shippers, you could do something of that nature. And the last thing I wanted to show you is the rate shopping from sales order. And this is something that we released, I think, last year sometime. But I'm just going to bring an order number up. This really can be any order. It doesn't matter. It could be an estimate if you wanted to quote freight on an estimate. But with Starship, we include this rate quote functionality as a standard part of the software app. And basically, when you load this up, it's going to make a call out to the Starship server in order to do the rate quote. So this is basically using the same Starship server that the client uses, the shipping client, but it's giving people in the front office the ability to do the rating. So when I push that rate quote, the ship to information is being passed from that order. We're also translating the ship via here. We're also selecting certain options if you have those mapped over. And currently what Starship's doing then is it's using the default package that you have set in Starship and then using a total weight of your items if you have the weight defined in inventory. If I were to look down in this packaging area here and I click these package types here, you'll see that I have a list of packages. These are the same packages that you've defined in Starship if you have done that, which will include any dimensions if you've created added dimensions and or tare weights to your packaging. So if I pick medium box here, you'll notice my dimensions are showing 12 by 10 by 8, and then I have the ability just to put in a weight here. And if I do a rate shop here, then what Starship will do is it'll send this particular shipment out and come back with my available options. And the services and carriers that you see here are basically what you have licensed on your Starship system. So in this case, I'm looking at UPS and FedEx because this is more of a parcel shipment here. And you'll notice also that you have three rates showing up. So the list rate is going to be the published rate from the carrier, contract will be your negotiated rate, and then the applied would be the freight charge that would include the freight rules that you've defined in Starship. So when Starship sends the transactions out for rating, it's actually connecting directly to the carrier's websites using your account information, and that enables us to get your most active current negotiated rate. So if you've negotiated volume-based discounts with the carriers, those would all be reflected in real time through Starship and or this rate quote utility here. And if I hit apply here, then what Starship will do is it can update the sales order, it can update the freight charge, you can have the ship via translated to come back and update that. You can also update the address. So Starship will can do an address validation. We have a couple different levels, but through the rate quote, we utilize the post office for ZIP+4 residential commercial. And if you wanted to have that standardized and sent back into the ship to information here, you can do that. Okay, I think that's all I had to show on the Starship side today. I'm going to pass it back over to Alex so he can show you the MPP solution. One sec.
Great. Hello, everyone. This is Alec back this show you with Information Irrigation Group. I want to start by thanking you for this opportunity to show you our material planning and production management software. What you're looking at right now is our calculate quantity to produce or purchase program. Basically, what this program allows you to do is it gives you the ability to view your requirements by item based on the existing transactions in the system. It takes into account the min-max levels defined for the items. It could also take into account the sales orders and show you your demand based on an entered ship due date. So if you want to just see what are your requirements for all the orders that you need to ship through next Friday, you can enter that date, and this information displayed on the screen would just include those demands. So this product is developed in the business object technology, it works under the SQL environment, SQL version of the Sage 100 product. And as you can see, it has the ability to generate purchase orders or generate manufacturing work orders based on the information entered in the system. To support the functionality of this program, we make few changes. I want to show you that in the inventory maintenance program, we add an MRP planning code. This gives you the ability to group your items into different groupings, maybe Monday morning items, maybe once a month items, or your items that you purchase. A manufacturing priority code, so if you want to manufacture your VIP items before the finished goods, you can give them a priority code so they're displayed on the planning, and they also, when you use the auto scheduling function, they're scheduled accordingly. You can define made to order or made to stock. Also, if you are using molds to do your manufacturing, you can define the molds and the machines and the quantity, and define if you have shared molds. So based on that, system would group those items together that need to be manufactured together on the system. As far as the bill of material, we use the MAS 9's bill of material, Sage 100's bill of material file. So the options are supported. We've added our own routing maintenance program, which gives you the ability to define the routings for items. So here for this item, I've entered a routing of R1, which basically lets the system know that I need 3 steps generated. And what the system does when you're generating a work order for this item, either from sales order entry program or from this screen, it would create 3 work order steps to be closed. Routings could also be linked to options. So if you have an option that has a routing attached to it, if during order entry you select that option, then the tasks created will also include the steps defined for that option. Get out of yes. So I'm gonna come back to the program here, the calculate quantity to produce program, and talk about the different sections of this program. Here at the left top corner, we have some fields that are used to enter a selection, which group of items, what MRP code, as we talked about, specific ship date, whether or not I want to show the item with zero quantity required, whether I want to do the calculation of my demand based on warehouses or just at the item level, sorted items in the grid based on the manufacturing code. If I want to do my run, if I want to my MRP run be based on my sales order demand, I will check that. Here I would enter a start date. We have an auto scheduling function that we'll talk about, and that basically would let me enter the date, the time that I want to start my scheduling for. So I can, if Thursday, I can do my scheduling for Monday morning orders. Based on the selection entered here, certain items are loaded into this grid. In this grid, we're showing you the item number, the vendor that you purchased from, the purchase item, your quantity on hand, sales order, back order, quantity on purchase order, on work order, required for work orders, your available quantity. Then if you make some changes to the demands, it basically would show you in these two columns what's the impact of those entered quantities on your quantity available. Then here it would take into account the reorder point entered for the item, and will come up with a calculated quantity for that item. So here it's telling me for this Bell item, I need to manufacture 2938 of it, taking into account the transactions, the demand placed by manufacturing other quantities that I've entered here, and my min max is defined. So here I have some additional information. I can drill down to that item and view information stored in the inventory file for that item. So by clicking on the button here, so that brings up to my item entry. I can basically view all the information, all the other transactions, including manufacturing dispatch transactions for that item. I can drill down to them and see the quantities and so forth. I can, if it's a bill of material item, I can view the bill of material entries for that and display information here by selecting my options and so forth. And if it's an item that is a sub-assembly, I can click on this button here and basically see the values for that item. So this would be the values for it. If it's an item that I purchase, I have the ability to view the vendors. So if I can click here, it would show me the vendors that I buy that item from and the lead time and so forth and so on. I can basic functionality. Also have the ability to drill down. If it's an item that have machines and molds defined for it, I can drill down and look at the machines and molds that it's used for. In our system, you can define an item, a mold to produce multiple products here, and it will group them together on the scale. As a matter of fact, the lines displayed here in red are the items that are grouped together. So if an item, if a mold generates multiple items, it will display both of them here on the screen. You can also, for any item, look at the existing transactions. What are all the other sales orders, work orders, purchase orders for that item, and it will show you the impact of those transactions on, a running total, and you can drill down from here and view the different transactions that are in the system. So once you view this information, and you make a decision if that's the quantity you want to produce or more or less, and you basically select the certain items that you want to basically take actions on. From here, the simplest action is generate purchase order, and it will generate purchase orders for you. Keep in mind, this is all live, so every time you run it, if you refresh it, clear it, and refresh it, it will go through all the transactions, all the levels that you've defined in the bill of material, as many levels that you've defined, and come back and show you what's the calculated demand. Right from there, you can generate your purchase orders. Keep in mind, you can have it run for just the raw materials that you're purchasing and just manage and view the sales orders and purchase orders for those items and generate the purchase orders for items that have nothing to do with manufacturing. These are just items that you buy and sell. It will let you manage those functions. As far as the manufacturing goes, you can do one of few things. As you finalize your demands, you can click on Generate Manufacturing, which will go ahead and generate the manufacturing steps and load them on our scheduling board. Here, each one of these cells basically represents one of those steps in my routing process. So just going to quickly bring up the routing just to kind of point that out. So in here for my routing of R1, I have 3 lines defined. So if I generate any, if I generate the work orders for any item that has the routing assigned to it, it would create 3 of these cells and load them on my scheduling board. So there'll be 3 cells that I can open, and I can view what cells order it's for, or it just came from the calculate quantity to produce program. So that's done by clicking on the Generate Manufacturing. If I want to auto schedule, we give you the ability to enter your shifts in the system. You can enter by day what shifts are available, and based on the information entered either at the routing level, so how many hours it takes for that step, or entered for the specific machine and mold combination as to how many you can produce and what's the setup time, it will go ahead based on the preferred machine entered for the item and so forth. It would come back and it would auto schedule. So you have a preferred machine, you have a preferred mold, you have the quantity produced per hours and the queue time. So it will take all of this into account, and for the start date entered, it will do the auto scheduling. It will basically create your schedule, and the work orders would be loaded into your scheduling board based on that information. Now, if you have a situation that you just want to finalize your numbers and then accept them, you have the ability to have a scheduling board view, which gives you the ability to view those items. I'm going to talk about scheduling board a little bit here. So it gives you the ability to load those items here with the demands that you finalize, and then from here, drag and drop and create those work orders based on your load and what date and what day and what machine you want to operate and load that information in. A few things that I want to point out about this scheduling board. First of all, this scheduling board has many different views. You can create as many views. For each view, we give you the ability to enter your desired selections. So if it's specific work order types, specific priority, specific customers, you can create as many views as you want, and each view would have those filters. So you can have your, let's talk about a scenario where you are releasing some work order, you're creating some work orders, then you release them to the scheduling person to do the scheduling. So you could do that by changing the status to release for production. Actually, we even have a program that you can run that looks at all the work orders that have a specific status, checks the availability of the components. If you have components for all of them, all the quantities, sufficient quantity for all the components, it would check the status to something, for example, that says release to production. So you would see those in here. So the statuses are used by the system to manage a lot of the workflow. It's very easy to open a work order. So if you open a work order, it would basically show you what item it's for. If it's a lot-based item, it will let you create the lot number based on the Julian date, or let you generate serial numbers. It knows that the machine and the mold that you'd use for it. So a lot of that information is handled by the system here for you. We also have features, for example, if you can set up a status in the setup option, and any work order you change to that status, we'll check to see if there are other work orders with this, for the same item with the same status, and say, do you want to group them together? They have this the same status in the system. We also will tell you if you drag and drop an work order from one machine to the other, from one operator to the other, whether or not that operator, that machine has the capability, the skill set, or has the valid mold to perform that function. So we talked about how we generate work orders from our calculate quantity to produce screen. We looked at this program here. What I like to do is quickly go to the sales order and show you, if you're doing a lot of made to order manufacturing, how you can generate work orders from the sales order module. So basically here you have the ability to select your item. Let's say you select an item 120 and bell 10. So you can enter the quantity. If the item has options, it will display the option. You can select it, and then you can come back at a certain time and click on this button, which basically generates the work orders and puts them on the scheduling board based on, again, the routings that are linked to the item and the options of the item. So if I click here, it would basically show me the next work order number. It will go ahead and create work orders and load them on the scheduling board. So if I want to view the work order steps that got created, basically they got created based on the routing. There are 3 of them. I can drill down and look at them. If I want to, any one of the steps. So basically I see. Now, so what we do in the system is that based on the bill of material entered, based on the routing, we bring the components from the bill of material and we load them into this dispatch transaction. That gives us the ability to basically have quantity on work order and quantity required for production updated in the system. So basically at this point the quantities are reserved. Actually, it's an optional setting. You can have the system reserve the quantities when work orders are created, or have a second function that you once you change the quantities status to a given status at that point it does the reservation. Once you're done with manufacturing, you click on the button, you select the quantity that you produce. You can have partial production, and it will take the information from here and load it into daily production entry program based on the bill of material. So, and once you update this daily production, basically if the work order was generated, the daily production was generated because of a work order, it knows that quantity on work order and required for work orders were updated. So at this point, at this time, it does the proper updating. So when you're looking at the items, you see the proper quantity on work order and reserved for work order numbers on the screen. Coming back to, so we talked about sales orders, but we also had other functionality to the sales order. For example, you can always drill down and see the MRP here for that item, what other sales orders and work orders you have for that item. Optionally, we can let you commit your components to specific sales orders if that's what you like to do. So. And I want to just come back to here. So it's very easy to work with the scheduling board. You can drag a job from one day to the other, or from one machine to the other. You can have views that show you the hours. If you like to do your scheduling by hours instead of by days, you can basically enter a date and a shift, and it will only show you the work orders for that day and that shift if you have them defined. So all the work is done. So with that, Adrian, I'm done with my quick overview. I'd like to turn it over back to you, so we have some time left for the Q&A.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you, Caroline and Bob. That's a great presentation. I'm going to go ahead and show the contact information here. Oh, let me make myself presenter. And we do have quite a few questions, if everybody can see my slide here. I do want to go through here. For some reason, when I show my PowerPoint, I can't see the questions. So I do have a poll. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll while we announce these questions. If you can answer this poll, are you interested in learning more about IIG's material production planning? enhancement. If you could just take a second to answer that. Let me scroll back over here to the questions. And Caroline, I see that you have been busy answering quite a few of these questions.
You can say them out loud if you want to. It might, other people may have the same questions, but I thought I would answer some of
Perfect.
them as we
Gosh,
went.
we have a full load here. Is the functionality in the current version is this functionality in the current version of Sage, or is it a separate add-on from IIG? And I think that this question came in while Bob was giving his demonstration. So I think that this is the shipping component, related to the shipping component, but maybe we want to just address this question globally for manufacturing and shipping.
So as far as manufacturing, it's available in SQL version 2014, and it's an enhancement of IIG.
And then we have another question here. When you mention EDI, does this include the possibility of 3PL services? Thank you, Brian, for your question.
Hey, I think that may have gone to Starship. I'm not sure, but on the EDI side with Starship, what we're really speaking of there is EDI solutions that are generating ASNs as a result of the shipment. And we have integrations to EDI solutions such as Mapadoc or TrueCommerce or Redtail. So that's what we were talking about with 3PL on the Starship side.
And I'm going to go ahead and close this poll, share the results. It looks like 68% of you are interested in learning more about IIG's enhancements. Thank you for that, for answering that question. I'm going to ask one more poll while we're announcing the rest of the questions. Are you interested in learning more about the shipping automation? And if you could just take a moment to answer that question. And hopefully, Graham, we answered all your questions in regard to the manufacturing component of the demo. We got into the manufacturing a little bit later into the demo, but Alec, I think, was very comprehensive in addressing that portion of the demo. So please feel free to ask any other questions related to manufacturing. I'm hopeful that he addressed your the information that you were seeking. Rate shop is interesting, but how about LTL and partial full flatbed truck logistics, Caroline?
On the Starship side, we do support rating for over a dozen LTL carriers. We don't offer rating for TL shipments. If anybody has requests or questions regarding the LTL support, feel free to email those over to me, cwalsh@vtechnologies.com. Thanks.
And then what 3PL carriers are included in your services at this point, or do we have to request them to have them added on our behalf?
Well, all of our carrier modules on Starship are just that, modules. So to add additional carrier modules, they're licensed. And the one 3PL that we currently support is FreightQuote.
And this is great for packages with one box size, but what if you have smaller parts where the box sizes vary per quantity?
And I was thinking that that question related to the batch import, where we talked about the idea of being able to import a bunch of different orders or invoices and process those in one swoop. But so you can, there's a couple different things there. You can either use the default packaging in Starship so that you can define for this one batch of orders or invoices that you want to use this box size with this weight going this carrier. Or you can also use something called packaging scenarios in Starship, where Starship will do auto packing based on any one item. So if you have case pack type deals where you maybe a quantity of 6 goes in a medium-sized box that weighs 20 pounds, Starship can auto pack based on your packaging scenarios. Outside of that, if you have mixed cartons where you have multiple items in one box, we usually would recommend that you use a warehouse management system or solution where you can define the item to box level information, and then Starship can pull the invoice document that has all that information associated to it and do a batch process for that.
And then since job costing and MRP are not SQL supported on Sage 100, how does this planning tool utilize SQL?
Oh, it's the product is developed in business object technology, is 100% compatible with Sage's approach to working with the SQL tables. So, and by the way, I did not mention, but our system also does a job costing. For every work order that you create, you have the ability to create a job file, and that job file, any activity would roll up to that job, so you can see profitability, including transactions processed in the accounts payable module, overhead and any invoices that are processed would post to that job. So if you're doing a made to order, manufacturing, you can create a job. You can even have multiple sales orders that post to the same job, transactions from the AP module that post to the job. So you'll have visibility over your job costing.
And Alec, where do lead times come into play? Thank you, Nora, for that question.
The lead time basically for manufacturing, based on the routing, we use those for doing the doing the auto scheduling. As far as work purchasing goes, we have an option to go through and look at the work orders and push the date in or out based on the vendor the lead time that is given for the purchase order.
And we have another question from Brian. Thank you, Brian. A major part of our shipments are flatbed trucks. What does your system offer in this regard?
For flatbed, Starship basically can just automate the printing of the BOL. The rating and tendering that we offer through Starship is available for LTL type shipments.
And then single items only, though? I think that might have been in addition to another question.
Yeah, I think you can skip through those.
Okay. When the IIG material planning and production, when was the IIG material planning and production module released?
We've had the product for the last 4 or 5 years, and just recently made a push to bring it to the market in the SQL version once Sage basically announced that they would not be supporting SQL for the work order in MRP.
And Dan, thank you for your question. Alec, can you create one purchase order for multiple components? Also, does Alec integrate with multi-bin from ACSG?
So 2 questions. One, at this point, it just creates a separate work order for each item. But we have our own multi-bin, but we do not integrate with ACSG multi-bin, but we should be able to do it if needed.
Okay. And thank you, Stephen, for your question. Does the material planning and production module add-on work with Sage Mass 200?
The answer is yes.
And Dave, thank you for your question. Does the Starship Rate Shop consider Parcel as well as LTL shippers? And will it populate the freight cost field based on a carrier selection?
Yes, it can rate shop both Parcel and LTL at the same time. And once you select whichever carrier you want to go with, it would utilize that particular freight cost and apply any freight rules to write that back to the Sage document.
And Stephen, thank you again for your question. We currently have MRP, but it's very basic. It only generates a report with no scheduling board. And I think that might have been an FYI. And I have a request to display the contact information again. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this poll and share the results. Are you interested in learning more about shipping automation? It looks like 46% of you are. I'm going to hide that, and then I'm going to expand my screen so you can see Alex's contact information and Carolyn's contact information. So I'll let this display for a minute or so. And I don't think we have any other questions. We did have a hand raised, but we no longer have a hand raised. So I think we've addressed all the questions. Thank you, Caroline and Alec and Bob, for this wonderful presentation. It's great to see how your enhancements can make the use of Sage 100 ERP more applicable to manufacturing and more automated for shipping, so you can ship more items, just like we said, better, cheaper, and faster.
Thank you, Caroline, Adrian, Bob, and all attendees.
And thanks again for spending this hour with us. It looks like we are right 1 minute over the hour. We are on top of our game today. So thank you again for spending that hour with us. We know it's hard to come by. And we just thank everybody for your time and have a fantastic day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.